Hi everyone, my name is Alyssa Andrews. I'm here with the National Sports Media Association, and today I'm talking to Mr. Heinert. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Alyssa?
I'm doing well. So before we get started, can we get a brief, introduction of yourself and some background information?
Sure. Like you said, my name is Alex Heinert. I have spent the majority of my broadcasting career in North Dakota. I'm from originally South Dakota, so on the other side of the border, but I mainly do a lot of college and high school sports for a couple of different entities in the Dakotas, mostly with Midco Sports, but also with CBS Sports Network. It's my 10th year with Midco and my third with CBS. I was a high school athlete and always wanted to go into broadcasting, and I'm very blessed that I've gotten a chance to do this as a career, and very, very thankful to be recognized by the NSMA this year.
Great. So you said you're a high school athlete. What sport did you play?
So I'm from a really small town in South Dakota. So I was blessed with the opportunity to play pretty much every sport. So you got to do football and basketball and track and fields, and it was baseball in the summertime. So I got a little bit of everything.
That's great. That's great. So what does a typical day in your life look like currently?
Um, it's a great question. Every day is a little bit different, right? Depending
Yeah.
on what time of year it is, what's on the schedule, what sports I'm covering. But most of the time, like a typical week is spent preparing for a game, doing prep work behind the scenes, having meetings with coaches and players from the certain teams that I'm working with. Depending on the time of year, I'm also doing feature stories, interviewing kids and tracking down different angles to help tell the stories of these young student athletes. Hanging out with my family, keeping busy with my kids. I have three little kids at home, so it's a balancing act. But it's a lot of prep work, and then of course getting to go and call games typically on Fridays or Saturday nights around the Upper Midwest.
Yeah, definitely. And are there any memorable stories that you could kind of share with us?
Do you mean from this past year, Alyssa, or from maybe just the length and
Whenever.
breadth of time? Yeah.
Something that just
Um,
really has always stuck with you, I would say.
oh boy. I know from like a career perspective, I know some of the things that really stand out are just the kindness that people in this industry have shown me. I know I didn't have the opportunity to go to a big school or to a broadcasting program or things like that. And so it's been a lot of learning from scratch, like learning how to do this by getting repetition and then by just asking your colleagues and reaching out to people. And so I've had, and I could give a lot of specifics, but I've been really lucky that people have either reached out to me and asked how they could help, or they've been very receptive when I've reached out to them, just asking for advice. I think that's the biggest thing about this industry. You can tell it really is a family, and people who are in it really understand the toils and the hard things that come with being in an industry that is so subjective. And it's a lot of times trying to convince people that you're good enough to do what you can do and feel like you're capable of. And I wouldn't have gotten to where I am without the help of a lot of really good people that have advocated for me or given me tips along the way. So very thankful for the brotherhood and the sisterhood that we have here with broadcasting.
And what's some advice you would give a young adult looking to enter the broadcasting industry?
I think the biggest thing is to not get frustrated if you don't get the opportunity that you want right away. I mean, it's a hard industry to break into, depending on what you're doing, whether it's play by play or reporting or whatever it is. It's pretty saturated right now, maybe oversaturated with a lot of really talented people. So being okay with accepting a job that maybe isn't exactly your dream job or something that you don't feel like is quite what you want to do in the industry, being okay with that is really important. I got to work behind the scenes a lot when I started out in broadcasting, doing everything from production to replay to stats to whatever, camera work, etc. Because that was available, and that got me my foot in the door and allowed me to learn a lot more about the business. So I think if you are a young broadcaster and are just starting out in this industry, being okay with going through the grinds and growing with each step, because again, everything that you do on this path is going to help set you up for success as long as you give it your full attention and your full effort. So don't think of a job maybe as lesser, but it's just a step in the right direction. So saying yes to things, embracing the repetition that's going to come with the opportunities that come your way, and then making the most of those chances when they do come to you. That'd be my best advice.
Thank you. And out of all the sports you covered, what is the one sport that you just love to cover?
They're all really fun. I think that's the great thing. In my job, working mostly in the college space, you get a chance to transition with the season. So you can do
Yeah.
football and volleyball in the fall, and then I get to do a lot of college hockey in the winter time, along with basketball, and then track and field in the spring. And I think, for me, I think it's the variety that's my favorite. I love getting a chance to do all those different things and telling different stories through different sports over the course of 12 months.
Great. Um, and like, how do you keep people engaged when you are reporting? Like, how do you keep your audience, engaged with what you're saying and like just good with what you're saying, basically?
Yeah, I think it's showing that you care about the sport that you're talking about, that you care about the people who are participating, that you're excited about their stories. Because if you're not excited or showing any sense of interest, why should your audience care outside of if they have a family member that's participating? So having that sense of care going in is really important. And then showing that through, even if the game itself is a little bit dull, finding different ways to weave in different material that people might find interesting, whether it's background or context on a different team or a player or on a matchup. There are just so many stories to tell at any given time, whether it's 10 people on a court or there are 20 people on a field or 12 people on the ice, whatever the numbers are. There's a lot of stories to tell. Everybody has their own specific path and journey. So being invested in those things, showing that you care about them, that helps the audience stay engaged.
Yeah. And with the age of social media being such a big thing, how do you incorporate it?
That's a great question. I'm a little more, I'm less active on social media probably than maybe I should be. And I know I've got some colleagues that really lean into that, and that's a great way to connect with fans. I mainly use social media just as a resource for myself to pick up information or see what's going on with a particular program or a team or a player. I use it sometimes as a promotional tool to say, hey, this is what I'm doing this week, or here's what our network is broadcasting, just so you know. But it's not necessarily something that I'm as plugged into, partly because I just don't have time. I think sometimes you have to really, to me, I want those things to be something that gives meaning or is beneficial to somebody. And most of the time, most social media posts are not. There really isn't a lot of benefit to those things. And so if I'm going to take time to be thoughtful about what I'm going to say, I want to make sure that it matters or that it makes a difference or that it, has some kind of an impact instead of sort of just a throwaway thought. I probably go about it the wrong way. I'm not good at social media. So if you're asking, but it certainly is a useful tool, and it's one that I probably should look into more.
Yeah, definitely. And being a reporter, relationships are very important. So do you take the time out to, talk to coaches and athletes and like really get to know them, especially if you're doing like stories? Like, what is that like for you a little bit?
Relationships are huge. That's a huge part of this business. Before I went into broadcasting full time, I worked in higher education in a student development office at a university, and like that's relationships, especially for college athletes, are so important because you want them to know that you care about them and that you care about their story, that you're not just passing through and are looking for a quick article or a quick angle to try and tell. So it's about taking the time, to know things about them before you go into an interview, to ask good questions, to show that you do want to tell their story in the best way possible and that you're capable of doing that, because they'll give you more information and be more honest with you and open with you if they trust you and they believe that you're going to take what you are being given and dispense it in a way that's going to help tell their story the right way. So no, those things are important. I think I'm lucky that a lot of my work centers around either specific programs where you kind of cover the same team every year, or leagues that I've covered for 8, 9, 12 years, whatever that looks like, that there's more of a history there. So you can kind of step into things and already feel like you've got a good sense of what's going on. But building those things up, with players and with coaches and with a fan base too, is really vital to having success in this space for sure.
Definitely. And what excites you most about the future of sports broadcasting?
I think the opportunity that exists now with so many different streaming platforms and so many more opportunities to broadcast is great. I think for future broadcasters to come along and have the chance to jump in and call games at a high level, really from anywhere. That's something that didn't exist 10, 15 years ago. So there's just so many more, even though there are a lot more people doing this work, there's a lot more opportunity for people too. So I'm excited to see what that future brings. I'm excited that everybody's getting better. You can just see the level of broadcasting in this country has really improved. There aren't people anymore who are on the air who you just want to mute. And maybe that wasn't the case 10 years ago, but it does feel like that every broadcast you listen to at whatever level it is pretty good now. And that's a testament to the people in front of the camera and the people behind it as well. It just seems like we just continue to keep moving forward. So I'm excited to see what the next iteration is and what the next generation of broadcasters coming through have to bring, because it just continues to get better.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to interview today. Congratulations on your National Sports Media Association Award 2024.